Today we're going to be concluding the Gwenpool storyline with the end of a comic book. Her story is so meta that she's even aware that we are at the end. And this story is brought to you by Wolverine: The Long Night, an audio scripted podcast brought to you by Marvel on Stitcher Premium. Click the link down below to find it, or stick around to the end of the episode so I can explain to you what it is. And now, let's say our goodbyes to Gwenpool. In our last video, we watched as Gwen tried to make a name for herself, becoming a hero and stopping Dr. Doom. But as Gwen used her powers to remove that very thing from existence, she saw that if she stayed on the good guy path, her comic was coming to an end. And with only 2 issues left, there was no choice but to go back to a life of crime, and Gwen set out to become a villain again in hopes that her series wouldn't be canceled. In the New York City apartment of the Leaper, Batroc sings to himself as he looks into the sky and sees a flying casino. He walks out onto his balcony, twisting his mustache, telling himself that it is such a beautiful night for a good old-fashioned heist. Once he readies himself, he leaps off into the air, towards the floating airship. And aboard that airship, the villain Chance stands out onto the deck welcoming his guests, telling them that they've worked hard to get everyone through security as quickly as possible. One of the guests asks if it isn't a bad idea to have a casino, just floating in the air. And Chance laughs, stating that he can understand their concern, but how about they make a wager on it and start the evening off right? The guest nervously laughs back, stating that it's all right, but Chance tells him, oh, come on. As you can see, a robbery attempt is already underway. Just outside of the ship, 3 costumed villains fly down onto the deck, and as they get close, a force field appears, zapping them and stops their chances of getting in. Chance yells, see? There's no chance that I would craft this luxury vehicle without proper security. This facility is constantly and meticulously monitored for metahumans. If they try to come on board, they're easier to brush away. Plus, there's some really neat magic stuff installed too. So if you have superpowers, you're not getting on this ship, which means Batroc, who doesn't have superpowers, can easily sneak onto the ship without setting off the security alarms. He climbs up, looking at his watch, asking, where is she? We have a schedule we need to. But before he can finish, 2 bouncers look at Batroc and ask if they can see his invitation. He tells them, of course, just let me go through these pockets. After a few moments, Gwen runs in, grabbing Batroc by the arm, shouting, there you are, Dad! The invitations are right here! Once she shows the bouncers the invitations, Batroc pulls her aside, stating that he's glad she can make it. She quietly yells that he could have boarded with the rest of them and not jump on board. She didn't jump through the panels of the comics to steal these invitations for nothing. The 2 make their way through the casino area and they head into the upper areas. And Batroc says the vault should be up here somewhere. Time to change and get to work. After ditching the disguises, he says that this is what he lives for. The thrill, the adrenaline. This is life. Gwen pulls down her mask, telling him, yeah, this is all right. I tried being a hero and that didn't work. So I'm ready to be a villain. Just up ahead, Batroc stops in the front of the large vault and says, there it is! Behind that door is millions and very easily transportable cryptocurrency. Gwen tells him, how are we supposed to get back the door? Batroc says that he thought she was going to use her new powers. She looks at the vault and says that she can't. There are limits to it. Without ever laying eyes on the inside, she can't just jump to the scene. Not unless they had a prologue with a janitor in it or something. Batroc snaps his fingers and says, I got it! You can see sound effects, right? Gwen says yes. He begins kicking the vault door over and over until it finally breaks open and says, see? I didn't hear a sound. She holds up all the whacks and the kicks and says, yeah, I just grabbed all the bams so that no one could hear a thing. So Gwen looks through the vault door and says that she thought this was supposed to be USB drives, not hundreds of gold bars. It doesn't matter anyway. I can handle this. If they just start throwing the gold into bags, she'll toss it off panel. As the last bag is thrown, the bouncers come running in shouting to step away from the gold, and Batroc quickly jumps in, kicking the bouncers, allowing Gwen and him to escape. But before they can get far, Chance stops them in the hallway. He points his gun, stating he doesn't know how they got into the vault, but he can assure them they'll have a long and painful chat about it. After a few seconds, one of the sacks of gold bars then appears and hits Chance in the back of the head. And Gwen tells him, fine, you can have your money back. Gwen and Batroc head back onto the ship deck. But before Gwen can ask what they're going to do, Batroc grabs her by the hand and leaps off. He lands feet first onto the nearby building, where Gwen gracefully lands and rolls onto the roof. As she gets up, the sacks of gold begin to appear and they fall on Batroc, and she shouts, well, there you have it. I got the gold. Later in Batroc's apartment, Batroc stacks the gold on the table and Gwen asks, so this is super villainy, right? And Batroc tells her, well, it might not be as bad as it sounds. We did rob a villain. And Gwen then asks, so what, we pulled a Robin Hood? We're supposed to be super villains. He gets up and asks, why do you want to become a villain? I picked this job so that I could give you your share of the gold. It'll help for when you want to become a hero. She pauses for a moment and laughs, stating, I should get going. I will go out and I will trade the gold for actual cash. Gwen stops again and sighs, telling Batroc, you're not going to be like this much longer. When this book is over, the writers aren't going to think of Batroc the Leaper this way. So before that happens, I want to say I'm sorry. She jumps up, hugging Batroc, telling him, this is goodbye. And as she sniffs, she tells him, you smell really nice. And he shouts, I just got new mustache wax. As Gwen leaves, Batroc says, she's crazy, but she did well. We'll talk soon. Gwen sulks, stating, I really doubt it. Can't kill Dr. Doom and be a hero. I can't knock off a casino and start a career as a great villain. Everything is coming to an end. What am I supposed to do about Cecil, Megatony, the Terrible Eye? Batroc might turn into a dumb joke third stringer again, but at least he would survive. But the supporting cast? They're just gonna disappear once this is over. As Gwen cries, a voice asks, excuse me, who said anything about being done? Gwen looks up off panel and sees herself with a lot longer hair, but not evil looking. After a few moments of silence, future Gwen asks, what, nothing to say? Gwen looks at herself and then turns saying, no, you're good. No more future alternate Gwens, thank you. Future Gwen jumps onto the panel in front of Gwen and tells her, hang on, your series is nearly over, but I'm here to tell you that it is not the end. You survive. Gwen hops onto the panel, sitting down saying, you don't look much older than me. Maybe it's the hair? And future Gwen tells her that people don't actually see age in the Marvel Universe unless it's very sudden and literal in the title, Old Man Logan. But that's the difference between the true future and the future of the evil one that you rejected. You see, you have an outsider's perspective, not just what's happening in February 2018 when Gwenpool 25 comes out. It's happening in June 2019 in trade, and so on. Right now, someone is reading this very moment, years after the people who made this comic died. It's not just here. You're gonna be in video games. There's gonna be toys, guest spots in other titles, fan art, fanfics, roleplay Twitter accounts, and all that stuff. Then someday, one of those fans might get a pro gig and remember to stick you in some new version of the Great Lakes Avengers or something. She sighs, stating, that sounds an awful lot like Grandma's not gone, but she'll live on in our hearts kind of a thing. Future Gwen says, if Grandma could do what we can do with panels, she would be horrifying. Either way, we're gonna go on to do great things, like finally rescue Cecil from the mystical beasts, and even bring him back to life. The same goes for the supporting cast. They're all gonna get to live too. See, you were all supposed to be a joke, sell some comics, get a laugh, and then be forgotten. But you hung around, and people started to realize that your powers were kind of dangerous. So much so that you should be a villain, but instead, you kept having a life of your own, and then you learned to control it more than they realized. When you refused to turn, you knew that you were giving up your future. At first, you came to this world thinking that no one really mattered because they weren't real. But then you did everything not to hurt them. That's being a hero. And doing things like that will buy some time around these parts, even if it isn't in the pages of the unbelievable Gwenpool Volume 1. Future Gwen then points to the bracelet on Gwen's wrist, asking, what's that? And Gwen says that Doctor Strange gave it to her on the last page after helping Cecil. Since they kind of just flew through it, she didn't get to figure out what the counter was for, but she's pretty sure she has an idea. On the next page, Gwen hops over to the Skrull War of 20XX and fights with everyone to, well, defeat the Skrulls, including her Skrull self. She then jumps to New York to help Spider-Man stop the Green Goblin. And as Gwen webs up the Goblin's neck, she laughs, shouting, look, I'm Spider-Gwen! Look, all I have to do is this. She then hits the button for the web shooters, runs out of fluids, and says, oh, well, spider farts, and begins falling while still hanging onto the Goblin. Suddenly, a web net appears and the actual Spider-Gwen swings down asking, what did you call yourself? Spider-Gwen helps Gwen up, and Gwen says she, didn't think that you lived in this multiverse, don't mind me. Later, Gwen and the Spider family all sit on a roof eating pizza, and Miles says, just one Goblin attack on Halloween? Not bad. Spider-Man then pokes Gwen, stating, hey, check it out, I'm pretty sure that's one of yours. Gwen looks down at a group of kids trick-or-treating, and she sees a young red-haired girl with a headband wearing a Gwenpool costume, and Gwen just smiles. The next page brings Gwen to Brooklyn to meet up with Megatony and everyone, including Pig Gwen. She looks at Pig Gwen and says that it looks like she was taken care of. And Tony tells her that Pig Gwen insists on wearing her costume, you know. Then a voice calls out stating, how touching! And MODOK flies down, shouting, it looks like all of my employees still have time to hang out while I was sent to space. Repercussions will be appropriate. But as MODOK looks around, he sees the Gwenpool mercenaries and shouts, never mind, you're all fired, goodbye. The next page, there's some time with Moon Girl and the Power Pack kids. Next, it's stopping by the police precinct to see Officer Gray. But as Gwen looks at her watch, she says that she's not sure how she got here, but she's gotta go. There's only a few pages left, and she is so not spending the last of them here. Goodbye. A short while later, the young girl that Gwen saw trick-or-treating grew up a little, and is often picked on in school. On one of those days, Gwen shouts to the bullies to lay off the nerd. And while that's happening, she's riding Fing Fang Foom, and Foom shouts, "Bing Fang Foom, hungry for mean and bad children." Foom then flies down, scaring the bullies, and as the little girl looks up, Gwen tells Foom, "Good work. Now you can bury yourself under a mountain or whatever it is you do." On the next page, Gwen spends some time with Squirrel Girl Doreen Green while she begins to work on fixing up Vincent the Doombot. As Doreen gets finished, Cecil tells Gwen that he did it. He finally found her brother. So Gwen and Doreen head into hell to fight Mephisto. And with one throw from Doreen, Gwen kicks Mephisto in the head, knocking him out. She jumps down to untie her brother Teddy, and he says that he thought that she had died when they came back into the comic world. He thought that he had died in the devil, but she tells him it's okay now. That's the funny thing. We're in hell. The devil here is real and very punchable. Why haven't more superheroes just done that? Doreen hears and thinks about it and says, wait. There's a reason why they don't. Just give me a second to figure it out. Gwen looks at her watch and sees that she only has 4 pages left, and she shouts that she's gotta go. There's another time that she has to be in. Later, in the future, Gwen stops by a hospital to see the little girl that she rescued, who is now a grown old woman. She lays in her bed and says Gwenpool is by her side once again, like when she was trick-or-treating, or when Fing Fang Foom came. How is she not aged? Gwen tells her it's because she put on a costume, and the old woman tells her, "See, you're just a background character, like me." After a few moments of silence, the nurse comes in and tells her not to worry, she's just sleeping. Gwen says that she's glad that she got to see her one last time, but it's time to go. She climbs back into the panels to let the old woman sleep, and she looks back on her life and hears something. Off in the distance, she hears herself speaking about how it was the end of the last issue. She turns back and tells everyone, "Thanks for reading. Now, if you'll excuse me." She heads to the last page of the last issue, and she asks her younger self, who said anything about being done? And there you have it, guys. The end to one of my favorite superheroes that came out last year. When she first got introduced, I thought she was just a joke character intended to be a variant cover that would probably get maybe a 6-issue run and disappear. But she turned into one of my favorite storylines, unaffected by Secret Empire, unaffected by any other event going on. She just was Gwenpool. Well, this is it. Goodbye, Gwenpool. And on that note, I just need to let you know that this episode is brought to you by the Wolverine Podcast. Marvel is unveiling their first scripted podcast ever. It's available exclusively on Stitcher Premium. Wolverine: The Long Night is going where no audio series has gone before, and you'll want to be a part of it from the start. The gripping tale follows the story of Logan, a strange newcomer in the small town of Burns, Alaska. You'll be immersed into the heart of a murder investigation, following along as the special agents explore a string of mysterious deaths around the town. And of course, everyone assumes it's Wolverine. The series stars Richard Armitage as Wolverine, who you might know as Thorin Oakenshield from the Hobbit trilogy, plus Scott Adsit from 30 Rock, and a special appearance from the comedian and podcast host Chris Gethard. To listen now, go to WolverinePodcast.com. That's WOLVERINE podcast.com, and use the code MARVEL to get a free month of Stitcher Premium. The link down below will help you guys find that, but I'm personally excited about this. Wolverine is one of my favorite Marvel superheroes, so hearing a detective adventure is something that I'm excited for. And if you want more of our style of audio dramas, then make sure that you subscribe to our channel so you can be here next time. I'll see you later.